No, I mean, I
building.
understand that, and you've said it to me, we've
Mhm.
had this discussion,
Right.
and you've been very forthcoming with the APPR and with the new contract that's state mandated, but, you know, it just seems with less staff, and over the last 3 years, we have significantly less staff than we did 3 years ago. Logic would say you don't need as many administrators to oversee less staff.
Holly, we're
That
also,
goes with every profession, no matter what you do. When you decrease staff, you do not need as many chiefs to administer over them.
and in the years prior to you being on the board, there have been consistent cuts each year in the number of administrators.
And there has been in the last 3 years. I mean, there really has been. I totally agree. I was looking, and I totally agree, and this has nothing to do with anybody that's sitting on this board right now. But if you look back 5 years ago, or even longer, it's actually like 7 years ago, there was a significant increase in our administrative staff. Not when anybody here, but, you know, those reductions were just based on an increase that happened 7 or 8 years ago.
The other thing that our administrators need to deal with at the moment and need to help the teachers deal with is all this mandated state testing. You know, as Greg leads, the position that Greg does in terms of overseeing and helping teachers work with the statistics of all the results of these tests are not gonna have any value whatsoever if we can't have somebody looking them over. So we need to have staff also to be not just doing teacher evaluations, but also making these tests be productive or be able to fight with the state in terms of trying to get those tests.
No, I know, and that's budgeted for. I just assumed with APPR, the state was gonna give us a little bit more money, which was presented to all of us
That
as a
would be
board.
nice.
No,
We would
but
like
that's the way it was presented.
Well, what they gave us in the race to the top money was slightly over $70,000.
Which
to be
cost us
used-
more to get it.
Right, to be used over a 4-year period. And I think, you know, just as an example, under the regulations now, the administrators are going from one formal evaluation every 4 years to one formal evaluation every year plus 2 walkthroughs. So it's a significant increase in time associated with teacher evaluations that is occurring. And that doesn't include the curriculum work that has to be done, student learning objectives that have to be done, and then the normal daily work that's associated with that administrative position. I think the 12-13 school year is a year of, you know, evaluating the impact of that. And I think we have to assess, you know, how we're going to administer, how successful we are administering teacher evaluations, and look at what potential changes can be made beyond that.
I just fear that, you know, what do you have to analyze when the elementary schools are already maxed out in class sizes, and, you know, the students just aren't gonna do as well on the tests, and then, I mean, but I know this isn't your choice with the APPR, I know it's nobody's choice, I know it's a state choice, and I know that we need to implement it, okay? It's just frustrating, and this is why, you know,
Very frustrating. I think everyone's frustrated by it.
but, you know, I mean, the bottom line is, as class sizes increase, okay, and I know that, you know, 23, 24 students in kindergarten was unheard of 5 years ago. That's the norm, at least for Union Pleasant. 23, 24 in first. I mean, I can't imagine being a teacher with no aide in the class and having 4 and 5-year-olds come into kindergarten, not only being able to evaluate who needs intervention, okay, because you can barely talk to them, so you don't know who has a speech problem the first few weeks of school, because you're barely talking to them. You're busy tying shoes and hanging up coats and, you know, helping them go to the bathroom. I just, you know.
If we could get our governor understanding this,
Yeah.
that would be great. But I think for the moment, we need to move on, because we
Okay,
do have
move on.
a budget that we have to pass, and we have other topics that we need to move on to. Would it be okay for the rest of you to move on to the recommended motion?
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Just a quick one. What, did we end up deciding what that 50,000 of athletic competition reduction consists of? Can I know that?
Yeah,
Everyone.
what the proposal is on that is there is a booster club being formed through the Hamburg Alumni Foundation, and there will be fundraising. So it's not an expenditure reduction. Again, it's part of our revenue budget that's been increased to cover the cost that the district won't be responsible for.
And one of the other decisions that was made was that we did not like the idea of picking and choosing one team as
Right.
compared to another,
Right.
or even one level as compared to another. That we wanted to make sure that everybody was uniformly supported, no matter whether it was one particular team or another.
So as of now, that $50,000 being reduced is what?
It's not a reduction, it's a revenue enhancement. So what we're doing is we've added $50,000 to the revenue that is expected to be raised through Booster Club activities to support the athletic program next year.
Okay.
Okay?
Do we paint ourselves in a corner by doing that?
Yes.
Because it's the same thing as it's gonna be easier for Greg's position, either we hire half a per, we either
Right.
sell a half or only hire a half. With this, I mean, if we come to halfway through the school year and the boosters come to us and say, only get 20 grand this year.
Well, it's incumbent on, you know, the boosters, it's incumbent on our athletic department, it's incumbent on district office to make sure that that doesn't happen. So, you know, we're determined to raise at least $50,000 to support our athletic program. I don't believe this is a one-year deal either. I think this is, we're gonna have to look at, you know, how we're gonna fund athletics. And if the booster club is able to do this and be consistent with it, then that's an avenue to generate revenue from. And I think that's one of the areas you always look to and that we're very limited with in terms of generating that type of revenue. So if we're successful with that, I'm hoping that that model will continue for the next few years.
Okay, recommended motion that the proposed 2012-13 budget in the amount of $56,597,957 be adopted and presented to the voters of the Hamburg Central School District in one proposition on May 15, 2012, as follows. Proposition number 1, budget. Shall the Board of Education of the Hamburg Central School District be authorized to expend the sums set forth in the proposed 2012-2013 budget in the total amount of $56,597,957 and levy the necessary tax. I do have, actually, can I get a recommended motion on that first? Recommended motion, a second?
Second.
Okay. I do have Matt was unable to be with us, he does send us a letter saying, I'm writing to let you know that although I'm working on Tuesday, I support the budget, he cannot actually vote because he's not here. I support the budget that we are proposing for voter approval. It's unfortunate that we have to make so many cuts, but this is the best scenario we can offer. So we have a recommended motion, we have a second on the motion. I think we'll have a roll call vote, is that correct? A roll call vote. We'll start down with you. Bob?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Patty?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Holly?
No?
And that's our vote. Okay, moving on.
Yep.
Next, we have addressed the life skills graduation requirement. We have a recommended motion that the Hamburg Central School District Board of Education hereby suspend the graduation requirement of the life skills for the 2012-2013 school year, just for that single school year. Recommended motion,
So moved.
a second?
Second. Can I have a discussion on that?
Okay.
Just to be clear on, make sure I understand this. The benefit that the district's getting out of this is to have the flexibility with the health department to try to maintain the programs that we currently have, as opposed to pigeonholing us into having this position for all students and having to cut somewhere else.
Correct. We're looking, you know, the proposed reduction in health is a 0.6 FTE. So we're looking at through this recommendation is that we will continue offering life skills. And it's just not a requirement that we'll have to schedule every student into. So we can continually offer it, and at the same time, we can continue offering the stress management nutrition program that are there. We need time to study the curriculum elements that are in the high school. And this will give us the opportunity to do that. Where we go with the curriculum is undetermined, because I have found some redundancy in some of the areas that we have. We often repeat some of the items that we have in business courses, in social studies courses, and in health courses. So those areas in particular have to be studied, but I think you know, an entire review of the high school curriculum is in order to make sure we're aligned appropriately.
So this gives you gives us the ability the time to study that, as opposed to getting rid of having to get rid of a program.
It gives us the ability to reduce in health, is what
Right.
it does, okay? But health has taken a hit the last 3 years. But that's what it does,
But
correct?
it also-
No, suspending the life skills gives us the ability to reduce in health. If we didn't suspend the requirement, we wouldn't be able to reduce in health, correct?
No, we would, we just wouldn't offer stress management nutrition.
Yeah, it would be somewhere
Right.
So you
else.
take away the elective.
So this really,
Taking away an elective.
this really saves an elective by doing this.
Well, it gives choice. It doesn't say an elective, it gets choice.
Doesn't make it a
Right.
mandate.
Right.
With the
But it's been
mandate,
a
you need so many more.
20-plus year program that has been successful in the district for 20-plus years that,
But at the moment, we have school districts who are cutting kindergarten, because kindergarten is not mandated by the state of New York.
I don't know of one
I
that
know
has
of
cut kindergarten.
that there's a school district right now tonight that's voting on it.
Where?
Whether they're at David Eaton, who grew up in Hamburg, is the school board president of the school district down near New York City. I spoke with him just yesterday, and they basically have cut all of their sports, and they're at the point of having to make a decision about cutting kindergarten. We have to balance a budget. School districts do not have the option of not balancing a budget. And so when we have non-mandated requirements that we built into our educational process, we have to be trying to figure out where we're gonna cut. And nobody wants to cut sports, nobody wants to cut music, nobody wants to cut health, nobody wants to cut, I mean, there are lots of things we don't wanna cut, but we have to make cuts. So this, knowing we have to make cuts, at least allows the students some choice in terms of whether they would prefer to take life skills, or whether they would prefer to take nutrition, or whether they would prefer to take stress reduction, stress management, as two other options, instead of saying,
But if you look at the
Corner
last
was
3
something.
budgets, the last 3 years' budget, and you study them, health and science has taken a huge hit. I mean,
everything has taken.
very, no, not really. It's very difficult to think that we can lose any more health or science classes offering or teachers. And you know, the way of the future, I mean, really, these kids are getting jobs out of college, health, science. I mean, this is, and we need to prepare them for the future. And I just think, you know, life skills was a great course that was mandated to graduate. You know, especially for those kids that can't fill their schedule with AP courses, or, you know, the middle of the road, okay? You know, they can't take AP, okay? So we're still offering, so it's great for a lot of students, okay? I know there's a lot of students that are really happy, because that means they can take one more AP course. But there's a lot of students that are middle of the road that I thought this was a great graduation requirement for the past 20-some years that really did teach kids life skills. And I know it's redundant in some other classes, okay? But, you know, health has just taken
But they can still
such a
take
hit.
this, right?
They can still
They
take
can
life
still
skills,
take it.
absolutely.
It's just not, they're suspending it
It's not
as
mandated.
graduation requirements so that we can
Right.
get the .6 cut. But it would cost us $33,000. And, you know, if you look at the line item budget of
All sorts
expenditures,
of other courses, I mean, it's not specifically a cut thing, it's
correct,
also an
but
option.
not all kids can take music either, you know. If you look at the 33,000, it would take us to keep that. You can look at, you know, if you look line by line by line on the budget, you can find where you can save the $33,000.
Well, you can
And
do
that's
that-
really what it
well,
is, it's a savings.
Unfortunately, you can make that argument for anything. You can make that argument for sports, you can make that argument for music, you can make that
Except
argument for
health-
science.
health has
I mean,
been
that's
decimated.
a redundant
Decimated over
argument.
the last 3 years, the health program, decimated.
I think that the budget process has been going through very carefully this year. We've been proposing and discussing every step of the way for many months, so that we have a whole new opportunity next year to reconsider, I hate to say, what's gonna be even more stressful a budget than this year. And there will probably be cuts that will need to be made next year, so that, you know, we have to all be on our toes and try to figure out any place that you have that you think we can make more cuts next year, keep those ideas.
Oh, I'll
available.
still be, yeah, I'll
Keep those
still be
ideas
here,
available.
I'll still be going through this, and, you know,
Okay, we
Before
had
I
that
just
proposed, motion, other
interject,
discussion?
this is also a recommendation for us from the building principal
Yes.
and director of curriculum.
Mhm.
Yeah, these are not ideas that we come up with alone, we go to the administrators of each building and ask for their
you
thoughts.
recommended this, Mr. Davis?
I recommended, it's the less of two evils, but in order to give the kids the choice of taking any of those things, you know, as far as I'm concerned, the music department and the art department have been decimated too for the last couple of years. But yet I have to face those cuts as well. So I guess it's what's the path of least resistance? I mean, in a year, this board can be here having the same discussion, saying, well, maybe we need to maintain the requirement. In a year, we're not just saying it's done. I know a lot of kids want to take the stress management thing, and I know kids want to take the nutrition again for the health field. But if we keep the life skills requirement, then we're gonna have to cut nutrition and or stress management.
One of the things in the world of science is that if the rest of us are imaginative enough and creative enough and dedicated enough, there's no reason we shouldn't be able to get out there and get some money that we can put together a program. And no, am I busy putting together a program at the moment? I'm not. I spend a heck of a lot of time with this school board, but in the future, yes, maybe I be putting together a program, maybe you and I get together and talk about it.
Somehow I think we had this conversation last summer, that we need to try and find money to keep these.
And we're trying our hardest.
No, I mean, we
We are,
did,
you're
you
right.
had this conversation with me. We
Absolutely.
need to work really hard to try and keep these programs.
Are there other discussion points that people want to raise at this point about this particular recommended motion? No? You roll call or an all in favor, all opposed?
Just vote, it's fine.
Okay. Bob?
Yes.
You're yes?
Yep.
Diane? Yes. Myself, yes. Patty?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Holly?
Yes.
Okay, moving on, the next thing we have is public expression. I don't think I have that list available yet. Do you have that, Jen? I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay. We have 3 people who have signed up to speak. The first one is Dr. Farkat, the second one is Sally Stevenson, and the third one is Christine Hoff. Welcome.
I'm gonna make my speech short, I'm not gonna talk too much. But from what I see over here, I mean, the pattern of every year, okay, the budget decrease, every year we're gonna cut more teachers. And it happened year before, last year, this year, and it's a pattern. And I believe somebody, either one of you guys or one of you guys, I really don't know how the system works, should stand up and say, you know what, we're not gonna do this. Those are our kids. This is the future of this country. I came from a different type of the world, where we have 50 students in the class. Trust me, maybe one of those students will grow up and be something, and the rest will be nothing. If you want to go that direction, that's what you have to do. Our country, every year, give about $200 billion, you can see it on IRS, to other countries to help them. Why don't they give us some of this money? I believe this is logic. Some of you guys have to speak. You say, no, why would the federal cut you 1.8 million? Why? You know Egypt take about $3 billion a year from your tax money? And this is one country. And this is what's reported. God knows what's not reported even. One of you should stand up. One of you should stand up. I mean, I feel so bad looking at this every year. And this country is going down. And your kids gonna doom you for what you're doing right now. Other countries gonna be smarter. Your kids gonna grow up, they're not gonna have enough position. You're not gonna be inventing. You took talented program, you cut it off. You cut in music, you cut language, you cut in health, you cut. This is wrong. It's all wrong. I'm sorry.
Thank you. In terms of the concept of standing up, I would say we all need to, you're right. And if we could all keep writing our government,
You know,
fight for
the
it.
country give $200 billion.
I might drive you to the White House, you can stand on the front lawn.
You split it on 50 states, each state gets $4 billion. You'll fix all state budget. Why would you help other countries become better and not our own people?
Well, just think of any football player who could take us on and sponsor our school district, and we'd be in good
I mean,
shape.
just,
Next, Sally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Through the slides, I counted 19 layoffs, minus retirees, am I correct, Barb?
I
19
think it's
people laid
less
off.
now.
I'm gonna get to the nuts and bolts of this. 8% of our budget is administration, correct? That's what I saw up there.
I'm sorry?
8% of our budget is administration.
Yes.
What in dollar amount is that?
I don't, we don't need
She's
to.
got
I don't need to, I,
She could share with us your thoughts, and then we need to.
my
be moving
thoughts
on.
are, you're spending millions of dollars in administration. You're taking teachers out of the classroom. You're increasing the class sizes. Your graduation rate is 87%. More than 1 in 10 kids will graduate from Hamburg High who started in kindergarten here. You're making it more difficult on the teachers. We're increasing the class sizes, we're cutting teachers, we're cutting programs. And you cut half a position in administration. As I said to you earlier, our superintendent here makes as much as our vice president of the United States of America. Something's not balanced right here. I didn't hear any one of you talk about cutting anything in administration but a little piddly amount. 8% of our total budget of 4,000 students is a huge amount of money. What are you paying in unemployment insurance? Estimated, a couple $100,000. Think of the money you could save if you didn't lay off all these people. And you cut some of the positions, you combine them, such as athletic director. Some districts combine athletic director as a vice principal of a school. But you have an athletic director plus fringe benefits of 33% on his salary that a vice principal of a school could manage. You've talked about cutting everything but administration, and that's where it's all wrong. As Dr. Farquhar has said, we need the teachers in the classroom, we need our staff, this is our community school, and you people up there, excuse me, Holly, you're the only one that spoke out, are not cutting the unessentials that are important to our kids. 87% graduation rate. 1 in 10 of our kids who start in kindergarten will not graduate. That's a very poor number.
Christine Hoff?
Hi. I wanted to talk about autism awareness this month. It's Autism Awareness Month, and I know you're talking about a lot of numbers, and I have just a few papers that you can pass around. I won't go into detail, but it's all in the numbers. One of the things I'd like to say is this month they released the new CDC numbers for autism, which are 1 in 88 children have autism. 1 in 54 boys have an autism spectrum diagnosis. And before I go on, I want to say my statement is from a lot of parents here. We worked on this together, some that aren't here. There's a few numbers that you might not know, but one thing I want to say is this number, 1 in 88, is only from children born in the year 2008. I also included the numbers from New York State, and those are where they took the numbers from. They take these numbers from state ed. Now, in state ed, there's many children with autism who are classified other health impaired or emotionally disturbed. Those children are not in these numbers. There's also children diagnosed with autism who are covered by a 504 plan. Those children are not in any of these numbers in New York State. There's a few other numbers I'd like you to know about. And these numbers come from the 1 in 110 because these numbers have not been calculated yet. And I don't think many of you know these. 6 in 100 for those who have classic autism have full-time employment. 12 in 100 with high-functioning autism or Asperger's syndrome have full-time employment. 12 to 20 children with an autism spectrum diagnosis live independently in the United States. The number 1 cause of death for children with classic autism is drowning. The number 1 cause of death for children with high-functioning autism is suicide. And I will let you read the rest of this, but I wanted to tell you a few other numbers there. And I want to draw your attention to the New York State numbers because I don't know how to interpret numbers, but I would like you to look at our Hamburg numbers and keep in mind these things that I told you. And it's not through anybody's fault of our own, I'm not blaming anybody, it's the way the system works. But if you look at the second table that's here, and this is available on Easter Seals, and if anybody would like a copy of anything, I'd be happy to send it to you by email. But if you look at the age 6 to 11, and this is children with all disabilities, it's 175,186 in the year 2000. The number goes down for all disabilities to 168,213. I don't know how to interpret it, but there's a very big unevenness here. And I know we're talking about money, but this is something people don't realize. Years ago, polio was like 1 in 1,000, and that was an epidemic. Nobody is looking at this, and nobody understands the epidemic of it. And there are children on a far wide spectrum. So there are children that are probably in our school system that are unrecognized and undiagnosed as well. And their parents don't know it. But there are things that can be done that doesn't have to cost a lot of money. And I would look forward to sharing that another day. But thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, meetings, workshops, reservations, how about if we give our students a chance to share some things about what's going on in the school district with us?
Just a few things. We did our Ball for Bucks, our annual Ball for Bucks this year, and we raised over $4,000 for Roswell, which was actually not, it was $3,000 more than our projected amount, so which was kind of cool. Yeah.
Very good.
So, the quarter ends Friday, so we'll be starting the fourth quarter, which is obviously the last one soon. Which means AP exams for most of the juniors and seniors start in approximately 2 weeks. I know the drama club is having, I think it's called Witness for the Prosecution. That's their play, and it's coming up really soon. Spring sports are doing really, really well right now. And I know personally the girls lacrosse team is doing a Alex Lemonade stand next Friday for their game at Frontier, which is cool, and our goal is $5,000. And we're trying to raise it for Ellie, who our lacrosse team's, I guess, little sister, I guess, and she has a brain tumor. So we're trying to raise $5,000 for her with Alex Lemonade stand. And other than that, student government elections are taking place currently too. So that's about it.
As board members, do we have specific things you want to share?
I did get the opportunity to go to the Boston Valley play, the lights, camera, action with my son. He was very entertained by it. It was kind of fun to watch. He's 4 and he's going to be going to Boston Valley next year. But some of the kids that go to Latchkey at his daycare, so we'd be sitting there going, "Oh, there's so-and-so here, there's so-and-so." So it was nice. The kids did a good job. It was fun to get to go see him. It was fun to see with my son.
You're dedicated to be on the board when your kid is not even in kindergarten yet. You were doing a good job. We appreciate it.
It was entertaining. It was.
Patty, have you got things you want to share?
No, none of my committees have met since our last board meeting.
When was our last lunch? Was our last lunch after the last board meeting?
Oh, yeah, yes, that was the day of,
The
the
day
day of the last board meeting.
Yep. But it's our,
That was at the middle school.
And that was
our
the
final
last of
and
our
last
lunches this
lunch.
year, yep. So that'll have to wait until next year to do more of those.
They're back, yes.
Yep. How about you, Diane?
The safety committee, we still have, Boy Scouts will be going through the village, re-signing everything, checking out the old signs, like if you are in the neighborhood and you've seen a deaf child sign for the last 60, 70 years, obviously there's no more deaf child in that area, so they're gonna be revamping the signs and taking them down.
That's a good idea.
Right, and doing some measurements, so again, be mindful of Boy Scouts, they're going to be wearing a vest out there, so you might see them on maybe a weekend or so forth. And the other thing was the committee president, Peter Danforth, he's very much a community-oriented person, and he also likes to, on the side, he teaches driver ed, so he keeps pushing me to keep asking you about driver safety at the high school level. And I said that you had that, I asked you that question the last time, and you said that you do have people who come in to the seminars and some instruction, so he was just adamant about that. With the summer upon us, especially the roundabouts and the dumps and so forth, he wants the students to be safe.
I just want to share one thought. I had a conversation with the superintendent today regarding my goal of, I really think we have to have a little bit longer term look about what we're doing here. you know, I've collected stuff that's happening in other districts and been reading all the articles that are published. And I'd like to, you know, I think we have to begin to study what our district is gonna look like in a few years and do some projections. And whether it's, there's a lot of talk about, you know, consolidation, you know, getting rid of administration, having consolidation between neighboring school districts. But, you know, in my brief conversation with the superintendent today, it's very complicated with different labor groups and different needs of each of the districts, and different transportation issues, and there's a whole, you know, I mean, I really think we have to either allocate some of our budget to spend on doing a study for that, or having a study completed for that, or begin us as a group, maybe setting up a committee with, whether it includes the administrators and teachers or other board members or other school districts, to start looking at that, because we've got to be able to maintain what we can, and hold on to what we can. And every year we seem to be going through this exercise of which are we going to cut off this year, and we got to figure out a better, a little bit longer term view. And I'd like to be involved in that, and would welcome some discussions about that.
The only other little thing I can add is there's a drug drop-off coming up April 28th. I'm not sure the Kids Escaping Drugs is doing a drop-off around the whole area. And I know in my office we're emphasizing to people, you know, don't flush things down toilets. You know, the best way to dispose of medications that are in your house that are no longer needed in your house is either to put them in a coffee can with coffee and cat litter and things like that, or much better yet, is to drop them off at the drug drop-offs. And the next one is, I believe, April 28th, and I think the closest location for drop-off is West Herb Collision. So please go through the medicines that are in your house. If any of your kids have gotten their wisdom teeth out lately, I keep talking to the dentist and saying, please don't send home a month of Lortab when you get your wisdom teeth out, and I hate to say it. I got into quite a debate with one physician not long ago who said absolutely he has the right to do that, and I shouldn't be telling him not to. You know, I said one Lortab is probably more than enough for most kids who get their wisdom teeth out. Maybe a couple of, you know, 600 milligram ibuprofens will do just as well. But I'm sure all of us have things in our house that are safe or not there. You know, we all know that kids, and not just kids, but all sorts of people do crazy things. I had a kid who decided he would take Cefsil one night, I fess up, because he thought it was Claritin, and he was itching when he was patting a kitten, and he almost had an anaphylactic reaction, and I shouldn't have had Cefsil sitting in my house if I had left that off at a drop-off. So, you know, get rid of that, whatever's in your house that you don't have it. April 28th is the next one that I'm aware of, and it's at the closest drop-off site is West Herb Collision. You don't have to justify what you're dropping off, you don't have to explain it, no one's gonna investigate where you came up with those medicines from. And every single solitary thing you can get out of your house and safely away is much better, and also not being put into our water. So that's just,
Could we
One
put that
little-
on our district website
that
maybe,
might be
so
good
that
to get it put
anyone
out
that
there.
logs on can just see
Yeah.
it and
Take a look at that.
There aren't enough of those. I know that people are trying to do more and more of those because it's clearly the best way to go these days.
Thanks for
What do they do with them once you collect them? What do they do with them? The drugs?
They sell them, do you know?
They sell them out the back door. Take them in the front, out the back, and maybe we should do that for a school district.
if you were disposing
Raise
of
some money.
medication in a
Moving
hospital.
along.
Okay, onward.
Consensus.
They chemically negate them somehow or other. They burn them up, that kind of thing. Okay, anything else we have, information board briefings, we have that sort of thing. Future board meetings, Tuesday, May 1st is the, next board meeting at 6:30 at the high school. Tuesday, May 8th, there's one at the administration building. And Tuesday, May 15th is the budget vote and election. Everybody spread the word, please. We'd like to have people turn out for that. Other than that, move on to consensus items. Okay. Okay, first, recommended motion is that approval to be given to all consensus items under section G, which include minutes from the last few meetings, and some recommended motion about personnel changes. Is that okay? All policies that we've already reviewed a couple of times. The policy on computerized information resources, the policy on social media guidelines, the policy on student use of computerized information, and the policy on internet safety. In addition to that, we have, in those consensus items, the recommendations of the preschool committee, and the recommendations of the committee and the subcommittee for special education. Are those all ones that people are comfortable with? Most of them are ones that we've seen before. Okay, can I have a motion that approval be given to all the consensus items under section G?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on. Action items. I recommend a motion that the Hamburg Central School District Board of Education cast one vote each in the annual election for Judith H. Katz and Edward R. Haven for the terms of July 1, 2012 through June 30th, 2015. This is an Erie 1 BOCES. These are Erie 1 BOCES candidates. Can I have such a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The next action item also addresses Erie 1 BOCES, that approval is given to the following resolution. Resolved that upon the recommendations of the superintendent of schools, the Hamburg Central School District Board of Education adopts the BOCES administrative budget for 2012-13 as presented at $3,105,172. May I have such a motion? A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, do we then have an action item addressing the inspectors for the elections and the machine operators for the annual budget vote? The recommended motion is that approval is given to the appointment of the following election inspectors and machine operators to work at the annual budget vote in the school board elections on May 15th, 2012, with a daily rate of $105. Shall I read through that list? Or you guys see it, read through the list? Alice Bardo, Mary Ann Dossinger, Shirley Haberman, Margaret Holmes, Marjorie Masciotto, Anita Meisner, Jeanette Bugle, Marguerite Samuelson, Elaine Schroeder, Gloria Troyon, Audrey Taft, Nancy Wood, and Don Yacobucci. Those are the inspectors of election. The machine operators are Robert Brogan, Robert Dossinger, Gerhard Gerbrock, Ken Haberman, and Vincent Yacobucci. Can I have such a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we have a building project change orders. This is, do you want to be explaining this?
This is for the current capital project. In any capital project, you run into issues with construction where it's going to require sometimes more money to fix a potential issue that wasn't seen through the original inspection. In some cases, very rarely, there is additions made, so change orders can come, most of them come that cost us more, but some may come that we get refunds for. So what this motion does is authorize me to approve change orders up to $20,000, and anything beyond $20,000 has to be board approved. We will be supplying the Board of Education with a summary of all change orders so that you can see what is taking place with them on a monthly basis as well.
Okay, so recommended motion be it resolved that the superintendent of schools is authorized to approve change orders up to $20,000 for the district-wide capital improvements project. A summary of change orders will be provided to the board every month. Can I have such a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We then have the 2012-2013 calendar for students and staff development. I believe that's, 3 days of staff development before Labor Day?
Correct.
Students starting classes the day after Labor Day?
Right.
Continuing to keep the Wednesday before Thanksgiving as a holiday?
187.
187 days
School
instead of on the
yes.
school calendar rather than 188. So the recommended motion is that the 2012-2013 calendar for students and staff development be approved. Can I have such a motion?
Motion?
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we then have the Hamburg Teachers Association contract approval. The recommended motion that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education and the Hamburg Central School District hereby approve the collective bargaining agreement and funding of the agreement between the district and the Hamburg Teachers Association, or the HTA. This contract is for the period from September 1, 2011 to August 31, 2013. I do have a note from Matt Dills. I have, oh, I'm sorry, motion, I will have a motion first, I'm sorry, excuse me. Motion? Second?
Second.
Okay, Matt Dills, I would like you to pass that I'm in favor of the agreement between the HTA and the Board of Education. I'm glad the teachers and district were able to come to a mutually agreed upon contract, especially in these difficult economic times. We vote on as a group or vote on
You
individually?
vote on this group.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We then
I'd like
have.
to just, I think John Morosic is he, no, he left, I'm sorry, John was here for a while, so I just, like to recognize the HTA for their efforts in terms of the negotiations for this agreement, which, again, did provide for a half an increase on step movement next year and did save both the teachers and the district over $350,000 with this contract.
We really appreciate it.
Yes.
We then have a recommended motion that warrant number 8 for February 2012 for the general fund, federal fund, school lunch fund, trust and agency warrant, and the capital funding totaling $2 billion. $2 billion, excuse me. Sitting there looking at these numbers are beginning to whirl. $2,177,968 to approve. A motion? A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we then have a recommended motion that the treasurer's report for February 2012 be approved.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we then have a bid that was contested because the two bids that came in were equal. This is a recommended motion, and what, you flipped a coin.
Yes.
You reviewed the two, we thought they were very equal, and the fair way was to flip a coin, and they went through a very fancy process to do that. The recommended motion that approval is given to the letter of recommendation of Gordon W. Jones Associates Architects and on the district-wide capital improvement project for contract 108, this is HVAC work, to John W. Danforth Company, totaling $2,047,000.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we then have a recommended motion that the Board of Education hereby approve the agreement between the district and Journeys and Refugee Services Incorporated to provide spoken interpretation services to limited English proficient individuals for a period of 1 year. Let's have a motion and a second on that, and then, is Colleen still here or not? Colleen, will you elaborate in a moment? Can we have a motion?
So moved.
A second? Give us a quick,
We have a student in our district that requires translation that happens during the CSE meeting, so we need an interpreter. And this is the company that we contract with.
And we don't currently have an ESL teacher, correct? Do we?
Yes,
yes, we do.
We
yes,
do?
Yes.
Okay, but this is a separate
Correct.
language that they don't,
Separate.
And it's for interpretation.
right.
The ESL teacher, the ESL
Teaches,
teachers still work with the student, but we
No,
need an
this is an
interpreter.
out-of-district student, but it's a student that receives special ed services, so when we come to the meeting, the family doesn't speak English, and so we need someone there that can translate what's happening at the meeting for the family as well as the student. So it's a special ed related.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we then have the 2012-13 property tax report card that Barb presented to us earlier. A recommended motion that it be resolved to approve and publish the 2012-2013 property tax report card pursuant to the regulations of the Commission on Education.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We then have a recommended motion that the Board of Education of the Hamburg Central School District approve the memorandum of agreement between the district, an employee, and the Hamburg Teachers Association. Can I have such a motion?
So.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And then we have a recommended motion that approval be given to the low recommended bid, number 1201, for driver's education instruction from the Buffalo CDL Training Institute in the amount of $310 per student at a total cost not to exceed $41,000. Such a motion? A second? All in favor? Opposed?
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
Do we pay that and we provide the students with a course that they can take for
Those-
everybody?
Yeah, the driver's ed, but the students pay the $320.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it's
Students
not,
pay.
not the district cost.
Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I was thinking, maybe we could charge them an extra $20.
Something like that?
It's like $9 for a can of paint.
A motion to adjourn the meeting? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.